evening. What do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
This is Justin from You Are Creators, and I really wanted to share this story with you. This is one of the most amazingly detailed near-death experiences that I have ever read, and I have read thousands. Greg S. had a near-death experience after a hang gliding accident near the mountains. His true account carries a variety of topics such as manifestation, the law of attraction, the power of thoughts, soulmates, and so much more. This powerful story might contain the answers to many of life's questions. Special thanks to nderf.org for their wonderful collection of stories. You can find a link to their website in the description. I have decided to let Steve White, the greatest narrator in the world, narrate this magnificent account. Here it goes.
The morning was rolling by without any major mishaps, but the thermals, or winds, were getting closer, and the air was becoming more and more turbulent. Dennis and I had taken a couple more halfway decent flights that lasted a couple minutes each. We traveled up the mountain much easier for these things. I drove us up in my car to about 3/4 of the way up for the second flight, and Dennis drove us up to about the same point for the third. It was about 11 o'clock by this time, and the mountain was covered with flyers and four-wheel drive vehicles to ride up on. When we'd fly down from one run to the top, we would break down our wings and catch another ride up as quickly as possible. At noon, the thermals were upon us, and they were very strong. Dennis and I were the only ones set up on top this time, and we were watching the thermals walk through. They were coming right at the mountain's northeast face, and were moving right on and over us. The air was shifting in a constant pattern. First, there was the mellow breeze that had been blowing all morning, and then suddenly there would be a calm, a lull in the air that was immediately followed by a huge gust of upward-moving wind. One pilot earlier didn't have the nose of his kite held down when one of these gusts came through, and it picked up his wing and hurled it across the flats on the mountain's top, breaking it badly in several places. He had to pack up the remains into the back of a truck and drive it down to the mountain's base. My kite was set up next to Dennis's, and we were both ready. I don't think that either one of us had flown any thermals that were this strong. I knew for a fact that I hadn't. The power in these gusts made me hesitant, and the thought crossed my mind to tear down and find a pickup truck to get back to the bottom. But just then, I saw the clouds separate and form a very circular opening that was letting a large beam of light reach the ground. This column of light was coming directly towards the bowl where I was set up, and at that moment, I felt it call to me. Here I am. I'm what you've been waiting for. The puffs of cumulus clouds were directly overhead, about 700 feet, and the light beam was nearing the mountain's base. Wow, I said to myself as I hooked into the kite and felt my adrenaline start to pump hard as I picked it up. I'm going for it, I shouted over to Dennis as I stood there balancing my wing into the wind. My heart was pounding loudly in my ears as I took the 2 steps for balance and began to run. The wind was only a mild breeze, and I became airborne after a few quick steps. The beam of light was dead ahead, about 50 feet, and I was gliding my way towards it when a wave of lift kicked me right off to the right. I corrected and proceeded forward when I felt the lull before the storm. Suddenly, the control bar came up into my chest with great force, and the nose of my kite went way up, putting me in a terrible left-wing stall. I was then thrust up and backwards as I entered this beam of light. It was as if a giant hand had grabbed the king post on the top of my craft and was throwing me up and backwards through the air, right back at the mountain. "Oh, God!" I cried. "I've stalled my ship badly. I've got to bring the nose down to be able to penetrate this blast." When the control bar pulled up into my chest from the kite's motion up and my motion down, I had bent the bar's triangular shape into a teardrop shape with my ribs. My blood and adrenaline pumped through my veins harder than it ever had before. And this was looking like it was going to be all she wrote for me. This was turning into the flight I never wanted to happen. Fast. What had I gotten myself into? I had no control over my airship, and I was moving very fast, heading directly at the mountain. Gonna be me that hits first. My internal system was booming at an even faster rate, and the experience was beginning to slow down in front of my eyes, because my mind was moving much faster than my body. I was seeing things frame by frame. This accelerated the momentum of my energies and brought on a new perspective that caught me off guard. My consciousness reflected from inside my body to about 30 yards outside of it, where all was peaceful and quiet, as I watched myself in the hang glider trying to correct my situation, then back into my body still heading towards the mountain. Wow, what's happening to me? I didn't know. It felt as if I had rushed myself with adrenaline too hard and had pushed myself out of my body. There was nothing I could do now but prepare to hit the mountain. My kite was not responding to my efforts. Prepare for impact. I put my legs down and raised my head in hopes that it wouldn't hit the ground first. Then, ba-boom! It was the most incredibly explosive sound and feeling initiated my ears and body. I felt my left leg explode and tear away at mid-shin, along with my right leg completely break apart at mid-thigh, bones separated and jamming down, while my back snapped in 2 places. Thunderous sounds of disaster filled my life as I implanted myself into the rock and dirt of Green Mountain. Lying there a mere 20 feet or so from the mountain's top, I was motionless from impact and injury. My mind faded in and out of consciousness, and the reality of what had just happened was strongly upon me. As I looked through the mesh of wires, broken tubing, torn Dacron, and blood, I saw Dennis, and he only had to look at me once, and ran to the ridge's edge, waving his arms and hands frantically to the people below to get an ambulance. Quick. I had crashed very close to where Dennis was set up. In fact, the thermal had nearly tossed me into him and his kite. Just a few feet higher, and it would have blown me clear over the mountain. Rats, I said as I looked up to my busted kite. I broke my wings. I somewhat chuckled about it. One of my gloves fell off, and I couldn't even move to pick it up. And then my body passed out. I passed out of my body. Disincarnate. Then, there I was again, outside of my body, and didn't feel anything pulling me back this time. The transition was immediate. Everything became electric, like transforming from analog to digital and bursting with incredible intensities of light, colors, and feelings of joyous reunion. All was alive and highly conscious. It was as if I had just woken from a very long, uncomfortable dream. I felt very strong, very complete, and much more conscious than I had ever felt before. The first sound I heard was this chorus, this multitude of sounds welcoming me home. Everything in front, through, and around me was now made of energy. Every individual thing appeared to contain its own sound, colors, and tempo, and vibrated at different frequencies. All of these sounds mixed together into a symphony of song. The colors were of hues I was not familiar with. The intensity of the energies that abounded everywhere were immaculate and extremely powerful. I looked at myself to see what I was now, and saw that I had retained my human form. But it too was composed of energy, sounds, colors, and tempo, and was luminous like everything else. I breathed its element and was its substance. There is a song already being sung, and we are all individual notes within this limitless ballad of the universe. I felt much more alive than I had ever felt before. I had never been this conscious of my senses and being. Oddly enough, this new essence was starting to look familiar to me. Greetings. The sky lingered as I floated above the crash scene. My mind was amazed and astounded at this new perspective of everything I could see and feel. I had never felt this good before. No fear, no pain, no underlying negative emotions. It was a glorious state of being I was now confronting. Humbled by the pure magnificence of the sight before me, and in an ecstasy to still be alive and secure from the loving embrace this plane held me in, I felt something pulling me upwards, away from the mountain, and into the clouds, to the outskirts of our atmosphere and into outer space. There, it stopped. I wasn't far outside of the earth, but I could see all of it. I said my goodbye and thanked her for all she had shown me, be it good or bad, and my family who'd helped and loved me all my life. All had been indeed a wonderful learning experience. I then turned my gaze to the deep and wondrous frontiers that lie within the body of outer space. I noticed waves of colored enlightening bands of energy were being dispersed at regular intervals from what sounded like a huge universal heartbeat. May have been the Milky Way's heart. Their source was unknown to me, and they were joyous to pass through, bringing impulses of rebirth and new age. Element 1. Distant calls of happiness spoke like old friends. This immense space, where all is suspended, has body to it, substance like that of a fluid, like a gigantic ocean carrying everything with it faster than the motion of a raging river. Never before on Earth had I seen the stars and planets look like this. I found I could move on my own by merely wanting to. I found I could also move as fast as I could think. The universe is so big. It took some time to get anywhere, but soon, stars and planets were moving to and past me. I saw a planet to my left that had no glow or other characteristics the others had, so I slowed my speed to take a better look at this one. Far off behind it, I noticed a large round life form rocketing through space much faster than I had traveled and was heading directly at this void planet. With a burst of light and sound, the life force entered this planet and remained there. The planet now glowed and had its own colors, sounds, and tempo, and was greeting its surroundings. I felt its greetings touch me, and I was a long way away. What had I just witnessed? Then it came to me. Had I just seen the spiritual birth of a planet? Do planets and stars have the same correlation to each other as humans do? I could see that they also contain the two sexes, male and female. The one I had just seen its birth was male. My aura grew a little when I understood this. I felt that much stronger. Now, I wanted to see what effect this would have on how fast I could go. Faster, faster, faster I went until an orange-red planet moved right into my line of fire. Curious, I thought. I hadn't deliberately changed my course or even felt that I had tried to do so. Something else must have. I greeted it, knowing now it was a life force of a much grander scale, and waited for its reply as I began decelerating in my approach to it. "Welcome," it called back to me. I smiled in spirit and dove into its outer celestial body. The energies of this planet were strong and joyful, and it did have a very thin orange atmosphere that held a few beautifully strange white cloud formations. The topography of its surface was barren, but it did show signs of rivers in its past, though they were presently dry etches in its soil. I felt a communication coming to me, and it was coming from the surface of this planet. I searched the grounds and saw 2 human life forms waving up to me. I was very surprised that I could even see them, because I was still quite high in the atmosphere, When I focused on them, a very telescopic sensation happened. I gladly descended, and the closer I came, the more I could see that these two beings, male in gender, were far, far ahead and beyond me in their evolution. Wisdom and knowledge shined powerfully around each of them, and the beauty and perfection in their forms was incredible to behold. Again, I felt like an infant, but there was something about these two that looked surprisingly familiar. I wasn't sure why. I wanted to bow down at their feet on my hands and knees when I came along next to them, but they wouldn't let me. So I stood, hovering in front of them, and was very honored that they were communicating with me. The being on my right spoke to me first. He told me that in one span of time, the two of us had incarnated into two of your offspring back on Earth, and were once your sons. My energies started to crackle when I heard this. So this is why they looked familiar. They both smiled with my new enlightenment of who they were. I looked deeply at them. They must have been 1,000 light years ahead of me. Echoes of the past rang deep within my spirit. Many had the essence of Earth to them, and surprisingly, many others previous to Earth's existence. I turned my focus back to the being on my right and was absorbed in his eyes. To incarnate, or to take on the texture of any given planet, is a universal process of growth for all spirits. It is indeed a challenge to do so because it's not easy to make what your spirit wants to happen, happen. The reason being is to manifest your spiritual thoughts, love, and ideas into physical matter. It is this creation process that is where spiritual growth on your part is obtained. Spirit is within a realm that moves much faster than the physical plane and is set to a much higher frequency, vibration, and is of much higher fidelity. Understand that the physical plane is composed of spirit too. All things are. But it is within a much slower spectrum. It cannot achieve the powers of higher levels on its own. It needs the help of spiritual bodies incarnating into it and raising their conscious levels together. It is a beneficial experience for both. Merging your higher plane of self, your eternal self, with this lower plane of being is totally up to you. You will experience, and have experienced with this merger, things you must overcome, because these things will get in your way as you try to ascend. Things like pain, fear, greed, grief, anger, lust, and other negative charges from past and present lifetimes are obstacles all of us must overcome to get beyond them. The more of these negative charges you conquer, the less you have to carry with you into other lives. The positive charges you create will nurture and lift you towards higher realms of strength, and manifestations become easier for you wherever you may be. The opportunities with incarnations are immense. Once your spiritual consciousness is stronger than your physical mind and brain functions, new worlds are waiting and will open for you to explore. This is true for everyone. I was listening with every inch of myself as he communicated. Making your spiritual thoughts and love manifest through the physical plane is quite a dynamic exercise. But that is what incarnations are all about. Spiritual exercise. All things are interconnected. How thoughts manifest into physical reality. While you are transcending your spiritual plane, you are also transcending your physical plane of being too. The spiritual and physical planes need each other and work together in the positive ascension of both, and this affects everything in the entire mass of eternity. You see, whatever you do will have an immediate effect on your surrounding spiritual tissues and on beings close to you, and will eventually have affected all things everywhere. Like dropping a stone into a pond, the ripples will travel the entire length and width, from edge to edge and from end to end. If you are creating positive energy, defined as love, you are helping the God factor creation in completing a universal circuit. powerful energy flow to and through you, and everything will grow a bit more in a positive, loving strength. If you are creating negative charges, you are hindering yourself and the progress of all things by creating a short in the circuitry of universal flow. Every thought you think is a thing you have created, and it is alive. You are continuously thinking, and your thoughts are released into the cosmos. If you are not aware of the charges you release with your thoughts, you do not know what charges you are attracting into your life. The universe contains every energy charge imaginable and will return the charges you release back to you. It is a process similar to breathing. What you release is what you attract. Be aware that you have magnitudes and polarities within your makeup. These properties strongly influence your life and what may happen to you. Magnitudes correlate with your interests and your reasons to be and fluctuate as you change your mind. They deal with your inner drives and concentration abilities. Your polarities govern your spiritual balance. It is extremely important for all things to be conscious of their spirit, its abilities, and its properties. After all, it is everything's reason to be. Its root composition is love. Its reason is to create and grow with the knowledge and strength that love contains. With it, an infinite amount of doors can be opened and vaster horizons conceived. Love is the charge to reach higher realms of being with. Without it, no ascension will take place in your spirit. You alone set your own destiny. Remember, you are the captain of your ship. Everything you do is up to you, and you are responsible for it. If you are not watching or not aware of the coordinates you are plotting into your master controls, who do you have to blame for whatever space, situation, or circumstance you may attract and end up with? You are the one who is responsible for it. Understand that the way to control what may happen to you involves several things. Thinking is a birthright all things have, but not everything uses. Think about what you're doing before you do it. Know that you are a life force and have the powers of being one. These are many-faceted and rooted in the God factor. Monitor the charges you are releasing in your thoughts, reactions, and dreams, because this is the energy you are attracting into your life, destination, and being. This sets your compass and velocity. At any given moment, thoughts are releasing from your being. Therefore, you are emitting the charge of that thought from the inside of you to the outside of you. You have then, consciously or not, made a request to the universe to be replenished with more of that same energy. Can you see how this may affect you and your surroundings? This process is happening everywhere and to everything all the time. It is continuous. Focus on your thoughts. Are they primarily positive or negative? Are you trying to help others? Or are you too concerned about helping yourself? What kind of goals do you have set? Any? If they are spiritual and towards trying to understand the why of all this, paths and experiences to further your understanding, this mystery will unfold before you to help you learn. Understanding concepts and the horizons of creation is the most challenging and the most rewarding research of all. Limitless frontiers await you if this is your pursuit and reason to be. Fine-tune your ideas to love. Make all your decisions from that energy. It's what you feel in your heart. You will see that with love you will proceed and acquire much happiness in your life through your own efforts towards loving energy and thought. The story is simple, really, and the choices are left up to you. To choose the path to higher planes of conscious is a tougher route because there are larger obstacles to overcome, harder transitions to go through, and vaster horizons to conceive and understand. It is not easy, but the strength you will gain with love as your essence will empower you to reach your goals and to climb the next hill that will present itself. This, too, is a continuum. Effort is the key. Without effort, there is no reward. Truly pursue your ideas and make them manifest. Follow them through to their completion. Attract love with your thoughts and the things you do, and you will have the strength to make your goals manifest much easier. All things have the power to make its own dreams come true. Attract what you want into your being by focusing your thoughts on that subject. This also sets your inner compass, your future, and the destiny of your being. Do not forget that you are attracting things with your thoughts and actions. This is continuously happening. So your destiny and future are always changing. What you do here in the present is directly tied to your future. Your future is happening now also, but it is not totally formed like your past is. Your present is whatever you've made it, or whatever you've allowed other things to make it for you. Watch the circumstances around you and see if they reflect the motion that you are seeking. Look for the blessing in all the things that happen to you and realize that the God factor is in every element that exists and beyond. Use these tips and you will find that the more you exercise these laws, the more you will be able to create a life to your liking. More doors will open for you in your search and study of higher existence. Incarnations are the path for accelerated growth. Once you have learned that this phenomenon is truly a blessing and a universal process, you will be able to apply this remarkable opportunity into your lives to come and to your present. Become a working part of the ascension of the total mass. You are a piece of forever, since you do exist, whether you like it or not. You have your space to contain for always, and it's your responsibility to maintain and take care of your area. So there is no reason why you shouldn't try to make the best of it, no matter where or who you are. I stood there very silent and let my mind think over what I had just been told. I heard truth in every word he had spoken to me. These communications were beyond telepathy, and I could feel the responsibility over my own being, which I hadn't looked at that way before. I guess that I had believed that there were more external forces controlling situations than internal. But he was right. The deciding factor to whatever my reaction would be to anything that may happen to me is my own final decision. I could see that I am the one responsible for all of my actions and my own fate. I looked at them, and they back at me. I nodded my head to show that I understood, and that it made a lot of sense. I thanked the being on my right for showing me these fundamentals I need to making my own personal dreams come true. I met my soulmate. I saw the being to my left raise his left arm and point to the far horizon. Then he said, "The woman who was your wife and our mother at the time of our incarnation with both of you is there." I looked over to where he was pointing. The sun was setting to my right, and the sky was darkening. And I saw what looked like a meteor with a long tail streaking through the heavens. This meteor turned and was coming directly at me. A tunnel, per se, appeared between the meteor and myself, and I saw the face of the most beautiful woman I had ever seen materialize at the other end. She was calling to me, gently. Her lips were moving as a song slipped out from between them so softly and lovingly that I felt her voice lift me off the ground and pull me towards her through the air. She moved closer to me, still singing colors of love while her body composed itself with the grace of an angel as we came closer to one another. She was beyond anything I had ever dreamed of in a woman. Her eyes were green and mesmerizing, almond-shaped. Her hair was long to her waist and golden in color as it fell down on her hips. She had a figure that was so proportionally perfect and full of womanly beauty that my jaw dropped. I gasped for air, and my heart thundered in my chest while my eyes went wide open. "You are part of me," she said as her fingertips touched mine. I love you, always have, and always will. We are soulmates, direct links, and we have forever to live and love each other. She then pulled close to me and whispered in my ear, I've missed you. Our motion through the atmosphere hadn't stopped, and we were now outside of this planet's ether and were once again in outer space. She backed away from me about 20 feet and stood there shining with waves of pinks, yellows, lavenders, and light blues. Look at the colors in my being and compare them with the colors in yours. I looked at myself to see what she meant. My colors contained purples, oranges, turquoises, and reds. See how they complement each other? She said with her eyes. I nodded my head. Our colors of being are like secondary values, and this means we need each other to form our primary color of being. She winked. I am the other half of you, and you are the other half of me. We were created as halves to the same circle. We are truly large parts of one another. All beings have their mates, but we complement all of each other's three fundamental qualities of being. Listen to the sounds of our beings. Hear the harmonies they make when standing apart. That's beautiful, I said to her. I love the song we are singing to each other, purely from our essence. She smiled. It doesn't matter how far apart we are from one another. Our beings will still be singing to and for each other wherever we are. Watch what happens when our bodies join together. I was hoping she'd say that. She moved very close to me and met me with a kiss. My mind began to float, and I felt myself moving into her entirely. The sounds of our two beings merged, creating harmonies that echoed through the stars and space around us. I've waited so long for us to join again. Now the time has come. Feel our life forces are becoming one. We have merged. Totally, from head to foot, with hearts directly next to each other, pumping life tandem to us as one entity. We shuddered and gasped as our tempos became accelerating syncopated beats, climbing, soaring, and bursting with the intensity of thunder. Waves of love rebounded and pulsated from our beings as we bathed in each other's energies. Our auras and bodies had formed into one united ball of white light. We had reached our primary color of being together. We slowly moved apart from one another, and I asked her, "How long has it been since we've seen each other face to face?" She smiled. "Many lifetimes. Are you beginning to remember me?" "Yes. Are you the woman who comes to me in my dreams? You must be the woman I've searched for all of my life, or lives, and now I find you way out here." She grasped my hands tenderly. "I am happy to hear that, but it comes as no surprise to me. I am inside of your heart, and you are inside of mine. You will understand soon that there is no escaping it. We really are pieces of one another." "I see. Then I would guess that everybody has a direct soulmate like you and me?" My mind contemplated the concept and flashed back to Earth, thinking of all the time I may have spent on her, and what era did this family live together in. I flashed back to where I was, and it was hard to believe. I actually was where I was. Yes, everybody and everything has one who is directly connected, and many who parallel very closely, and others who become less and less complementary until the only thing tying them together is creation itself. As for direct soulmates, like you and I, all spirits are paired in twos. There are only two sexes. Both are halves of the same circuit, similar to electricity, which everything relatively is, and both are halves of the same circle of love they create when together. Many try to join their halves of the love circle that do not fit well together. What is inevitable is that the two halves will pull themselves apart eventually or short-circuit each other away from one another. Sometimes opposing halves join together for karmic reasons, but usually their time together is short-lived. If needed, this is resolved. They will separate and continue to search for one that fits better. When two halves join, a circle is created. What happens when you join the two love halves together is that the energy within the circle you created begins to spin inside of itself, feeding and being fed. If the halves don't fit, or if one half likes being fed and does not feed the other, the love circle becomes unbalanced and will come apart. Love balance is important within yourself and with all the beings that you share love with. Love is a giving and a receiving kind of life substance. It is the key to the immense reservoir of loving strength that is within the root essence of the universe. Its powers are limitless if held pure and honest, and should never be abused. She told me as the picture she painted in my mind gave me a new understanding of some principles that define the responsibility involved in any love relationship. I have loved and lost many times, from my own ignorance and stupidity. My soulmate now pulled my hands up in front of my chest, my palms towards her, and my fingers outstretched. She did the same thing with hers towards me and brought her fingertips to my fingertips, palm to palm, fingers to fingers. Our energies began to build, and the motion flowed through our hands and circulated round about through our chests and arms. The giving and receiving was truly a mental and spiritual exercise. I could feel the circle she had just spoken about, and I could see the effort involved with both parties to keep the love energies moving and flowing smoothly to one another. We have two polarities within each of our beings, juice and ground, or north and south, and they rotate in a circular motion around our auras. We need both changes to create our inner flow, our inner motion, our drive and motivation. It is the same thing that keeps planets spinning, suns and solar systems revolving. These two forces together create a third force in the magnetic spectrum, which supplies the gravity within you, and the gravity within all beings, like house ground. With juice and ground, I am talking about our inner forces, though some beings using the grounding charge in a bad way and have created monsters with it. That is not what it is for. It is merely an opposing charge to create push and spin the powers of electrical properties within our beings. If you haven't noticed, everything in outer space is spinning, creating strong motions, powerful vortices, and controlled orbits. It is the same with inner space. This principle works with all things, even with soulmates. When you have found or attracted each other and have connected your energies, the creation powers now at hand are 1,000-fold compared to the individual's powers alone. The powers created when direct soulmates connect are directly linked to the immense love bank of our universe. A perfect fit. I was exploding with delight. All of this was making a lot of sense to me, and I was deeply honored to have all this information being shared. But why me? I am nobody in particular. Making mistakes is of my better skills, though I have been looking for truth for a long time. There are beings here that need each other just like the physical and the spiritual planes do. We are all interconnected, some much closer than others, according to the relative positions within our own atomic structures. You have an immediate body of beings that surround you and pass from lifetime to lifetime as many different relations to one another. These are the closest pieces of your atomic structure. Some of these beings only come in contact with you a few times, but whatever the case may be, you and this immediate group of beings together create an entity of its own. This entity is but a component of a larger body of beings, which together create a being of their own. The same principles exist for this entity, and it goes on and on throughout the universe, like a web. This matrix of the universe is the composition of all of these smaller bodies that are all interconnected in some fashion, depending on their position to one another. Someone's position in your atomic structure may be different than your position in theirs. But all of these different atomic structures are pieces of the entire mass. Do you see now how the things you do will eventually affect everything? The same is true for all things. We all need each other to be creating positive energies within forever's tissues. The universe is expanding at explosive speeds. New horizons are continuously being created, and new possibilities are always unfolding. Life here is always creating itself, new again. That is of its essence, and it is the substance of all things. We have only come across each other a few times in all the lives we have lived. She spun in a circle and pointed to the vastness of outer space. Now we meet again, further on in our own evolutions. We have mixed our souls and mated our spirits so that soon we may have the opportunity to traverse the heavens together as a primary unified whole, for a while, a completed circle. The circle is the strongest shape in the universe, she said to me with her face aglow. This is incredible, I said to her. This is utterly fantastic. I have never been so happy. But you said we may travel together soon, and just for a while? Why not from now onward? I asked. I wanted to stay with this beautiful star maiden forever, right now. She didn't have to answer. I could see that I was nowhere even close to her spiritual strength. I knew that I must be happy with these few moments to be with her, which I was. There is more happening for you to see right now. Promise you will return to me? She asked me with her left arm around my shoulders and her right hand over my heart. I looked deeply into her eyes and realized that it was time to be leaving her. I knew I was not ready to sustain the voyages that she may have in store for the both of us. So far, I had learned some very basic ways of helping control one's own destiny, ways to try and recognize soulmates, the atomic structures of related beings, some fundamentals of being, polarities, magnitudes, attraction laws. I understood that I have my own space to contain, maintain, and be responsible for, and my responsibility towards others in love sharing. I could see that the true key to life was the charge and powers of love, to try and understand love, though it, in itself, has always seemed rather impossible for me to get a solid grip on, with all its principles and properties, is vital because it is the root substance of life, how it relates to me, how to share it with others, what happens without it, and the possibilities when becoming strong with it. Many, many things here I need to put dedicated efforts into. I must broaden my view on all of the above. Yes, of course I will return to you, I promised. But how am I going to find you when I become ready to be able to join you again? I had no idea where we were in outer space right now, and outer space is very big. Just think of me. I am in your heart already. Our souls are mixed, and I am always there inside of you. Use the law of attraction. Remember, time is only relative to what you make it. Time is purely motion. How long have we existed? I asked her. Or should I already know this? I watched my mind reach deep into my own being to feel the depth of time contained there. Echoes of many lives were found. Lives before those lives, beyond human, beyond Earth, and even beyond that. Wow, I thought. A clock seems kind of useless when compared to that much time. You will remember more. All of us have a vast amount of knowledge already within us. We have all been for a very long time. Now that you know you have all this time within you, call upon that knowledge when you have a question, and quietly, with confidence, listen for an answer. Feel what charge it contains and where it may be guiding you to further investigate. Those beings whose properties parallel yours are the ones who have the most immediate effect on your life, as you do to theirs. We all need each other, and we all need to love one another as well. Please accept and use this loving energy that is being shared with you, and continue to grow with this plane of existence. For you need it, as all things do, and it needs you and all things also. Recognize that everything is important, no matter what it is. We all hold the same status to one another, no matter who or what you are. We respect all, because if you exist, you have a space to contain and are as important as anything else in the universe. Beings, you are a piece of it, another cell within the body of the entire mass of forever. We are all creations, life forces, and entities of the God factor. She pulled me close and kissed me once again and smiled. You really are beginning to remember me. I was feeling much more at one with all things now. Looking deeply at her, I said, I thank you and the God factor for your existence. I knew I would never forget her. Where are we to Earth? I asked. I had once called this planet Orion. You had known it as Mars. Wow, of course. I recognized it now. She grasped my right hand and started guiding us back toward the surface of Mars. Once there, our children of a past life were waiting for our return. The one who had spoken to me earlier said, There is more happening for you to see right now. Prepare to leave us. I didn't know what to say. Thank all of you for what you have shared with me. I will try to put these laws into my life, and I hope I will see all of you soon. I then felt that nudge, again pulling me away from these people and away from this planet. What a beautiful experience this had been. What a convincing way to prove to me that reincarnation really does happen by meeting a family of a past lifetime. Quite the family reunion. The means of communication was literally beyond words. I could truly see, smell, taste, feel, and be what anything was sending me. What a great way to talk. I could be their thought to see what they were saying. Amazing. I don't think Webster's has a word to describe this communication process yet. I stopped outside of this planet and thought about what they had just shown me, and at the same time kept my eyes open for whatever it was to happen next. As I turned away from Mars and surveyed the all-around vista, I noticed a large, shiny oval-shaped object moving towards me. It sent greetings. I'm here to show you more. I gladly let this transparent object of a being beam me aboard. Once inside, we took off with a flash of light. This vessel was very much alive and could move at an incredible rate of speed. A subtle roar surrounded us as stars and planets swept by. Then multitudes of solar systems streaked past us. The star clusters ahead of us were becoming more and more densely populated, and the energies in the space around us was getting much more intense and brighter. Where are we going? I asked the transport, as we zoomed through energy that was getting so powerful I thought we might turn into vapor. Well, we already were of sorts. To within the center of the Milky Way. We are almost there, it told me. I looked ahead and saw a planet moving right into our path. I knew then this is where we were going. The vessel began to decelerate and pulled into an orbit of this planet that looked strikingly similar to Earth. Wow, what a beautiful planet, I exclaimed. She is so fertile and singing with such happiness. Please, let me go down to see her more closely, I asked. The vessel slowly descended. I looked at her topography with delight. Her sky and oceans were bluer than blue. Her cloud formations were whiter than white. All around her land masses, she was covered with vegetation of many colors, shapes, and species. But I saw no signs of mankind or any familiar shorelines. This planet looked like a giant, richly flourishing garden. Perhaps Eden looked like this. Yes, I thought to myself, I will call you Eden. Everything I could see since I had left my body on Earth was extremely aware of this cosmic source, and we're all celebrating this awareness with happiness, honor, and joy. It was the same here. The transport and I swooped low into a valley as the plant life around us rejoiced in being. I moved from side to side within the vessel and marveled at the peaceful beauty this planet and its inhabitants contained. I felt our speed slowing even more, so I looked ahead to see what was coming up. There in the near distance was a tabletop mesa, and I bet that was where we were going. We came upon the mesa quicker than I thought we would. My transport settled down on the top, and the ship disappeared with a burst of light, leaving me standing alone with a magnificent view of a beautiful valley in front of me. So this is what Earth must have looked like and felt like before man got his hands on her. I noticed a growing desire to fly a hang glider off this mesa. It was a silly thought, I know, because I could fly much better now without one. I then felt the control bar materialize in my hands. I looked up and saw a set of wings unlike any I had ever seen before. I jumped into the air and proceeded to fly it into the valley below me. The trees and ground cover filled my heart with serenity just to see them flourishing without any threat of intruders tearing it apart for their own selfish reasons. Everything smiled here because all was working together. My thoughts focused on Earth. I felt very guilty for being a contributor of many lives, of adding my share of the poison, selfish traits, and pollution to the purity of her being. I'm just as guilty as anyone else. I knew that she was in dire need of help to save her life. All her resources, her air, waters, soil, and blood were being devastated and ruined in the name of progress and total greed saturation. I could feel Earth's desperate situation and cry for help clear out here. I was wishing there was a way that I could help her from this place, but I felt the glider disappear and myself being pulled upwards again, and then released just outside the planet. Wow, what a lesson that one was. It was about Earth, shown to me by a sister planet. She needs a lot of help, I know, and I wish I could help her. But I'm on the flip side now and only a fleck of dust in the universe. What could I possibly do to help her now? I turned my view to the sharp and vast distance in front of me. I wondered how fast I could move now, inspired from the speed of the vessel that brought me here. I began to accelerate. Faster, faster, faster the stars went screaming by me. Faster, 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 things were appearing to tunnel into a small point in the space before me. Faster, 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 boom! Suddenly, everything appeared to open into an even more vast perspective. Everything looked bigger. The planets, the solar systems, and space between, and I appeared to be slowing down, though I knew that I was still accelerating. New horizons like beams of light appeared projecting onto the many areas around me as very cosmic organic arteries in the space vista's skin would open, portal-like valves and dispersed galactic substances of life that would appear and disappear at will. What kind of warp or zone had I moved into with the velocity of speed I had attained? Oddly, I was feeling very much at home here by now, and it was obvious to me that this is where everything came from. Outer space. This plane of existence was so strange, so different, and so incredible. But I felt very sure I had lived here before and for a very long time. I felt genuinely at home. Suddenly, another planet moved directly into my path. Wow, there was no mistaking this one. It was Earth. Her aura appeared to be very strange, made me wonder if it was radioactivity. It was bleak, faded in color, and its sound was heart-wrenching. What's going on here? What has happened since I left? Did man drop the big one? Silence was my answer. Then a huge voice came to me and said, "Do you wish to return?" "What?" I mumbled. "After seeing this place exists? No, I don't want to go back there." "You can help if you do," it told me. "How?" I said. "How can I help Earth? I'm tiny," I said in disbelief. "Tell others about what you have just been shown," was its next statement. "Share the love you have seen here with other people, and this will help the Earth's entity. You will not be alone. Many others are doing this as we speak." "How much time has passed?" I asked, but no answer. How am I going to remember all this when I come out of a mother's womb? Still no answer. What? How? Why? Oh, life is so different here. I felt my time right then of finally making it away from and being free of what appeared to me a vicious, hard, and crazy world there on Earth's surface was coming to a close. "Do you wish to return to your soulmate quickly?" this massive presence asked. She then appeared, in my mind's eye, nodding at me to do this. Everything that had just been shown to me flashed before my eyes. I could see that I was far from being done with things here on Earth. I still had much to accomplish within myself, and now a new and very different job to do also. Nobody's going to believe me, especially if not much time has passed, crossed my mind. "I understand," I said. "There's no doubt. Going back and try to put these teachings into a life there makes a lot of sense to me now, and would be the best thing for me to do." Reluctance was showing in my decision. "But how am I going to remember all of this entering a mother's womb and egg?" I was hoping to be able to spend more time where I was to accomplish the growth task I was needing badly, but I could see I was clearly not of the strength to do so. "How much time has passed?" I asked again. No answer. Time to me now was very different than what it had been to me on Earth's surface. How am I going to remember this if people still teach their children like they did my last lifetime there? I then hoped a lot of time had passed, and also thought about the body I'd had previous to leaving it. I had a faint hope it might have lived, but feeling entrance into a new baby about to be conceived or born was prominent in my expectations. Dazed at the odds against me of really remembering, like I have been obviously forgetting many times before in this part of the process. "Okay," breathing deeply. "I will go back," I said. Reincarnation. I dove into the Earth's aura and penetrated the upper layers of her atmosphere. "Hello, Earth," I said to her, feeling elation leaving. "Welcome back," she called to me between her cries of pain and her pleadings to the human race to wake up. Her welcome put a smile back on my face and gave me a renewed sense of duty to try and help. "Why don't you stop mankind?" I asked her. "You definitely have the power to bring your suffering to an end by destroying your ailment completely." "No," she said. "If I must give my life to teach all of you a lesson to never do again, I would let it be so." But I still felt uncomfortable with the fact of probably losing all that I had just learned through the birthing process. As I moved lower towards the topography, seeing familiar terrain and pondering what was yet to happen in this scenario, I felt a shadow of the future and saw a large, dark cloud engulfing the Earth in 20 or more years from now. I couldn't see clearly what it was, but it felt very powerful and very evil indeed. I focused my thoughts on Green Mountain, figuring this might be a good place to start, since I didn't know how this incarnation was going to happen, but I was returning to do so. Soon, there it stood, Green Mountain in all its majesty. What a sight this was for me. I had attracted myself to it, and it worked. But nobody was there. What do I do now? I really didn't know. Again, that now familiar nudge took hold of me and began carrying me along. The houses, highways, and cars looked the same to me as when I left. Not much or no time had passed since then. I thought to myself, a little discouraged, how am I going to remember all this to tell other people? The possibility of really being able to keep my word was looking rather grim. That's when I saw it. St. Anthony's Hospital had moved directly into my path. Here it comes, I thought. Here it is. How much time has passed? I cried out as I floated over the parking lot. 6 days, the voice said to me, and that was all. Over to the hospital's east and south-facing wing it carried me. I was preparing myself for the transition into a mother's womb. Up to the 3rd floor from the outside I was guided. Here we go, I shuddered. In through the window I went, and it left me standing behind the headrails of a hospital bed in this very sterile hospital room. 2 doctors at the foot of the bed were asking questions to a patient inside of it. I couldn't see the patient yet from where I was standing, but when the patient responded, I recognized the voice. It was me. I rushed to the side of the bed to see my body. It had survived. But the sight I beheld was ghastly. I had busted it up very badly. It didn't even look like me for the most part. It was extremely puffed up and swollen, purple, black, and blue, both legs outrageously broken. But I was still very glad to see it. How do I get you back? How do I reclaim you? I moved towards its head, and like a vacuum, I was sucked back into it. I felt something else leave as I entered, and felt another essence of me create itself seemingly as a filter between my body and spiritual connection so that these intense energies didn't turn my body into ashes. I saw this new layer of me as my mind. Wow, fits like a glove, I was thinking to myself when I heard one of the doctor's voices exclaim, "Look, some kind of mental change?" I looked up at both of the doctors and said, "I just re-entered my body." They looked at each other, chuckled something about the strange things people with concussions say. Both of them got up and walked out of the room. Wow, I said to myself, I really have come back. I then sighed very deeply and closed my eyes.